In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Giver of life. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Okay, quick pre-sermon sermon. Madeline, you were telling me like how, I don't know if I can forgive you for giving me another one of Paul's readings. Because Paul is so clear, concise, and well edited. Said no one ever. There's a lot to unpack in this reading. He's talking to a predominantly Gentile group who had become followers of Jesus. And there's this discussion of whether or not people need to be under the law of Moses or Torah. Because, if you're Jewish, that's kind of a big thing. Well, he wants everyone to come through Jesus in through the covenant with Abraham, so you can bypass the covenant of Moses, and then because you're no longer slaves to the ways of the world around you, you can be slaves to God's righteousness. Isn't that so clear and simple? So if you've ever been confused by Paul, relax. Everyone, I think Paul was confused by Paul. And then we get into the texts that are arguably not actually written by Paul, but written in Paul's name. But that's a whole other story. Okay, end scene. Did anyone have a chance to read the Constant Contact blurb I wrote this week? Good, excellent. If you didn't, that's okay. You get to hear it today in the sermon. So I love those wonderful moments of the Spirit, or Kismet, or however you want to describe it. I sat down to write this blurb, wanting to think about what does welcome mean, not having even read the readings for this week. And then I looked at the readings for the bulletin as I was editing it with Lynn the other day. I'm like, I had no idea what the readings were. This is kind of amazing. So I thought, it's a really interesting thing to chew on, so I want to explore that. Okay. Her name notwithstanding, there's a character in a movie called Blazing Saddles called Lily Von Shtupp. Her thing, I love Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks is an absolute gem. But her response when people would knock on her door was, bienvenue, welcome, and welcome, come on in. All the different ways of saying welcome in German, French, English, and then American, for lack of a better way of putting it. What is welcome? We say it a lot. One of my favorite things in the world, he says tongue-in-cheek, are those churches, those organizations that have the saying, all are welcome. But the reality is, a lot of these groups are, everyone is welcome, no matter what, no exceptions, as long as you think and look and act exactly like we do. Raise your hand if you've ever experienced that. Yeah. Or those that don't say that all are welcome, but the welcome is truly there. Well, what is this thing that we're talking about? By being the scholarly nerd that I am, it's like, well, I've got this dictionary app on my laptop. Let's see what it means. And the derivative of the word is welcome from Old English that means one whose visit is pleasing. One whose visit is pleasing. Now, is that a little different than what we normally think of when we think of the word welcome? Yeah. What would you say is a normal definition of welcome?
That just the person that's coming, we don't necessarily even know they're welcome, whatever that word is. Yeah. It's the opposite.
So if you were to paraphrase the word welcome, how would you define it? Oh, you're good.
I kind of lost my
No, you're good. Because I heard from that. I'm going to come to you in just a second. It's you don't need, whether or not you even know the person, you want to bring them in.
It's not really. Yeah.
An invitation, if you will. Lynn, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just expand on that a little bit. When you say welcome to somebody that you don't know if they're going to be pleasing to you or not.
Exactly.
But you're going to take a chance and invite them to be part of your life for a minute and then see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. So welcoming is an invitation and an offering of hospitality. Hospitality, I like the interesting multiplicity of definitions for hospitality, because hospital, hospice, hospitality, three very different things in the same root. Jonathan, what do you know?
One of the things about welcome is that it's the thing that you're supposed to say.
Welcome is the thing, the sort of ritualized word we use when we bring someone into our community.
Thank you.
Exactly. How you doing? Fine. Well, are you fine? It's always that moment when it says, how you doing? I'm like, I am terrible. Or as my grandfather used to do, terrible, thank you, with a smile on his face. And the people who didn't know him were like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Pierce. He's like, I'm fine. Anyway, so our current colloquial Ian.
I think it also means an acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement of what?
Well, when you say to somebody, you are welcome, it means whatever you did, thank you.
Okay, excellent. It's acknowledgement of that person and what they bring to the mix. So we have a very different colloquial understanding from the original etymology, not to be confused with entomology, because you bug out over that. Sorry, bad pun. I apologize. So I want to look at the notion of one whose visit is pleasing as a definition of welcome. So who is actually welcome in this situation? The guest or the host?
Yes.
Exactly, same word.
Well, the guest is welcome in the sense that the hospitality is assumed for them. Like they're welcome into the space, they're welcome to food and lodging, I assume, and all of that stuff. But then because their visit is pleasing and there's this assumption of like mutual gratification and sense of gratitude, the host is also being given the gift of the company of the person that they're hosting.
So it's the mutual gift of the invitation and hospitality, but also the pleasing experience for the host. So it's mutual, I would say. Okay, so then the question is, what makes a pleasing visit? What makes someone welcome? Like you've come well, or well met is another way of saying it. What makes for a pleasing experience? Well, someone that we connect with, right? Someone who comes into the place, feels like they belong when they first step in the door, which I've heard overwhelmingly has been the case you all have had here. And also that those who are part of this community are glad for that person to be part of the community. That's a really powerful thing. And welcoming in that sense is very hard to find. The question is, what if someone's visit is not pleasing? How do we expand our horizons of what welcome means? Especially in a world where there are oftentimes going to be visitors that are not pleasing to us, or if we're a visitor into a community, we might not be pleased with the experience we experience. Anyone's head hurting? Yeah. It's trying to get us beyond just where we find common threads, common ground, ease of connection, and expanding what it means to say, what is the ultimate pleasing outcome of an engagement with other people, especially when guests come into our home or we are guests in other people's home? Well, what's the L word that I always use? Love. So how is a visit pleasing based on the criteria of God's love? Do you understand my question? So how would we measure the pleasingness of someone's visit, regardless of whether or not we enjoy that person, based on how we engage with the love of God with that person, or give that love, receive that love back and forth?
Well, if we had the ability to really see God in everybody, which I must say I have not yet got, but if we did, then you could deal with anyone with love. It would just be there from your heart to their heart.
So if you truly have to see the presence of God in every human being and are able to love them no matter what, which I also struggle with, that's when you're able to have a pleasing experience with them, because you're welcoming God's child and God's self into the mix. Very well said. I saw two other hands. Stephanie and then Anne.
It's basically the same that we very, very tall. We don't know exactly where they're coming from. Because we have to our hearts. Let them be who they are and love them no matter what.
So because we don't know their stories, it's important to keep an open heart and mind to them and allow them to be part of the space, because we don't know what might be under the surface. Anne, what about you?
I think it also has an obligation of the person who is being held, and they need to try also to connect with the world's mind.
Mm-hmm. So the onus on the person being the guest is to actually be someone that is respectful of the community to which they are welcome, which is often undermined it's undermined because the assumption is you're a guest in a home, everyone should drop everything just to be there for you. And the true welcome is not that. True welcome is that we are coming together to be closer together and build community, I would say, especially if the love of God is the most important thing. So welcome isn't just hospitality from the host to the guest. It's the guest opening themselves up to the possibility of what they might find from the host and the mutuality that comes out of that. Is that going to help make a little bit better sense of the question? Yeah, these are confusing thoughts. My mind still is like, it's almost like reading Paul. Chip, were you going to say something? No? Okay, you look like you're kind of thinking about it. So, one of the challenges that we face is to truly be a welcoming place. Now, it's easy to welcome people that we click with instantaneously. It's hard to welcome people with whom we don't jive. And the question is, how do we mutually hold our boundaries as a community so that people understand what it is they're being welcomed into, but also give flexibility for other people to bring who they are exactly as they are into our community, and then allow the Spirit of God to change them and us in the process. But also, how do we ensure that we have flexible enough boundaries for what community looks like based on love, so that we are truly welcoming to all people? But ultimately, what we have to offer here is that anytime people walk in our doors, the visit is pleasing. You achieve that. That is evident every time I talk to newcomers. How do we extend that welcome beyond our doors through our actions? Not necessarily even just saying all are welcome here, but being welcoming, being ones for whom a pleasing experience is going to be inevitable for both us and the people that come in our doors, so that we ensure that this is an oasis of true welcome in a world that is very unwelcoming and in many ways makes love feel unwelcome. And that's one of the gifts that we have in the Episcopal Church. I'll let you talk just a second, Mama. That is unique, especially in a time when welcome is not a priority the same way that it could be. Did you hear that, Mom?
Yes. Yes. One of the things that I think we need to remember to do is to listen, to love and listen to the people who might be coming into our fellowship, and then making them feel as comfortable as possible, but letting them tell their story, where they're coming from, and helping them find places where they can plug in with what you're doing. And as you have new people, if you will make the contact after they come to the church and go out and let them know that you were very glad to have them come, and let them feel the welcoming spirit from the people within the church.
Mm-hmm. So that's a great ending point. Is one of the most important things we can do is listen to understand, listen to better be able to figure out how to welcome someone and how to connect with them and follow through with that, not just when they come in our doors, but beyond that. So, true welcome is true love of God, true hospitality, and true challenge to grow in our lives together. True welcome means those who come in our doors can be themselves and are expected to understand better that these are the structures that our community is. That means some people may not want to stay, and that's okay, because welcome is also the same thing that allows people to find where that pleasing visit is, because that's where their journey's taken them. The assumption that everyone should feel equally welcome in one place is not realistic, but it doesn't mean that they're not welcome here. But at the very least, in a world right now that is full of unwelcoming and hostility, our responsibility is to be a place of welcome and be people of welcome in the world and share that welcoming love so that more and more people know what it feels like to have the sense of safety that you all feel in this place. And as we build that safety in the world, God's Spirit can flow through the world even more powerfully than already. And we continue to build God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven.